Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ibrahim Anderson. I absolutely know who I am. Absolutely, without question. Knowing myself has been how I have navigated my adult life, and perhaps even before my adult life, I think. I've always known. I think even some of my earliest memories in childhood, I've always had an awareness of the person that I see in the mirror. In a way, I feel like I'm a bit of an anomaly. I think if I were a car, my heart would be the motor, but my logical mind would be the steering wheel. I think that's what seems like a bit of a paradox, because although I'm so incredibly emotional and sensitive, I also feel like because I allow my mind to drive, I can kind of divorce myself from emotion long enough to make what I would consider to be sound decisions. I think probably 98 to 99%. I think that if I had to take a guess, and obviously it would only be a guess because I don't know all of mankind or everybody on the planet, but I would say if there were a percentile ranking of how well one knows himself or herself, I believe I would clearly be between the 95th and 99th percentile. It has been important for me to know and to be engaged with the man that I see in the mirror. What things am I most likely to be in denial about? I don't know. For me, denial is a weakness. And so if I'm constantly trying to improve myself and I'm constantly trying to be the best Ibrahim that I can be, I really, really try extremely hard to be conscious of the potential of denial and to thwart it off. Absolutely. People can absolutely change. I think who we are is what God gave us, meaning what we came into the world with and what we brought, what we picked up along the way. And the things that we pick up along the way, they have the ability to change us if we let them, if we allow them. I often say I am not a person to live with regrets. The things that if I had the opportunity to do over again, I would definitely do them differently. I could count them on one hand, undoubtedly. But for the most part, I'm really happy with who I am. My relationship with God, I feel, is very strong. But most of the time, I feel mostly like a failure where that comes in, I think. But I also think that is because of the role models that I have chosen for myself, the greatest men who have ever lived. Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, alayhim salam, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar, Uthman, wa Ali, radiyallahu anhum. I want to be raised out of my grave and be successful. I really believe that my life will end, but I honestly and truly also believe that I will be raised out of my grave, and I want to be successful. And because of that, I think I would change things, and I'm constantly trying to change things about who I am, I think every day, because I want to be more like the men that I've already mentioned to you. Oh man. I think people consider me to be honest. I think people consider me to be fair. I think people describe me as handsome, as probably having a nice physique. I think people describe me as being intelligent, well-spoken, I think probably wise. But I also think that, and I don't agree with this, but I think a good number of people would also probably describe me as arrogant, conceited. I think that there are probably a good number of people that might describe me as insensitive, and they could not be more wrong. That's a good one. The time I felt least like myself. I was raised Christian. I was raised in a devout Christian home, and I was a genuine Christian. I mean, I sincerely believed that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior. As I grew older, when I was an adult, I remember a time when I just knew I was going to be famous, and I had gone out to California, and I returned home from California to my hometown, and just it was a very difficult time for me. People used to say, he may not come when you want him, but he's always right on time. Well, I used to have an expression that was sort of a spin-off of that expression, and it was, he's always 5 minutes late for me. So, and I'm sorry, that is arrogant, but that was the old me. Long story short, I had gone through a tough time, and I was used to how God would take care of me. Always, no matter what happened, if there was a deadline to an entry, I would say, okay, Lord, okay, the deadline's almost here, and the deadline would pass. But little did I know the Lord would make it open back up. And so that's what I meant by 5 minutes late. I had just gained, I think, an enormous amount of faith and confidence that the Lord was always going to be there for me no matter what. And so when I moved back home from California, I didn't feel that. And I was waiting. I was like, okay, I know, I get it. It's the 5 minutes late deal. But then 5 minutes passed, and 10 minutes passed, and 15 minutes passed. And it wasn't the same. It was a different test. And I think what I didn't understand at that time is when you're in the third grade, there is a certain level of test. But when you're passing to the fourth grade, it's not a realistic expectation that you're going to continue to have the third grade test forever. The tests have to get harder. And I was learning that, or that was my first experience with that. And I began to really, I would say doubt, but I don't think it was doubt. I think it was a full-fledged arrogance and temper tantrum. But I literally said a prayer and said, fine, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me. But I literally said, fine, don't do it, but don't hold me back. If you move out of the way, in other words, if God isn't putting these obstacles in my way, just move. I can do it myself. Astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive me. But I remember praying that prayer, and I went through probably 2 or 3 weeks when literally I felt like the Lord took me from me. Like nothing felt right inside me anymore. I felt so hollow that literally if I screamed, it felt like it would reverberate and echo inside my body, bounce off the inside of my feet and back up. That's how hollow I felt. And the lesson that I learned is that I'm nothing. I'm absolutely nothing without him. I don't even have me without him. And that was the time when I felt least like myself. It is the first time I felt that way. It is the last time I felt that way. And I could not be, I think, more thankful for that experience, because what that taught me was humility. And so I think there's not a test that I've really had to go through in my adult life, because I embraced Islam at age 23. But I think there's not a test that I've had to go through since embracing Islam that I didn't remember that and say, okay, I'm gonna draw the line here. There are some things I just won't do because he's my Lord, right? He's not my friend or my brother or my father. He's my God, and I'm nothing. And I remember what he can do to me. And I remember that he can take me from me. Not feeling like me was one of the scariest things I think I've ever felt. Probably every day. I've gone through some really tough times, and oftentimes being a Muslim in America, especially coming from a Christian household, you will find yourself in some very lonely places. And that can be tough. You find yourself without family, and you find yourself sometimes without friends, and you find yourself with the guy in the mirror. And he has been there for me. He has been there for me. Islam, the Quran and the Sunnah. I was thinking on the way to this interview, a big part of, the biggest role in who I am, or the biggest role in sort of understanding myself is can be summed up in a statement of Umar ibn al-Khattab. He said, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا وزنوها قبل أن توزنوا وتزينوا وتهيئوا للأرض الأكبر يوم تعرضون لا تخفى منكم خافعة. It means hold yourselves accountable before you will be held accountable, and weigh yourselves on the scale before the great weigh-in, before you'll be weighed, and prepare yourselves for the expo, for the great exhibit, the day when you will be exposed and nothing will be hidden. That's probably one of the biggest things that determine my behavior. It determines who I am. Unequivocally, not even a close second, dying as a Muslim. My relationship with my Creator, it means the absolute most to me. Aside from that, I think the relationship between spouses, marriage is an incredible, it's a gift. I was married for almost 20 years, a wonderful, wonderful, happy marriage. For me, it was a very wonderful marriage. And the fact that it ended, I don't consider it a failure at all. It was a gift, and it is a gift. But, and then other than that, my kids mean everything to me. I think about my sons and my daughters, and my older children and my younger children. I think those relationships are just incredibly strong. I've said this before, that the only opinion of me that matters to me is the opinion of my Lord. But that's actually not all the way true. If only God's opinion of us mattered to us, then we wouldn't be embarrassed when people were gossiping, or we wouldn't be hurt when people were lying, or we wouldn't be offended when people were defaming our reputations. Other people's opinion do affect us, and they matter, at least to some extent. But I'm striving to be a person that the only opinion of me that matters to me is the opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the opinion of my Lord. I absolutely believe in life after death, and it absolutely has an effect on how I live my life, because it is the most important factor about how I live my life. I think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us both, because part of what has been designed for my life has been physically designed into this that you see, but also a good portion of what has shaped me has also been designed as a part of my experiences. I am a man, a human being. I'm a male. I'm honored to be an African American, blessed to be Muslim. I am a student of life and learning. I am a passionate and a compassionate lover of people. I am layers and layers of different things, some genetic, some experiential. I'm a lot of things, a lot of wonderful things, and striving to be better. And a lot of things might determine who we are, but I think our legacy will be determined by how we participate. It's not just about, you were the prettiest girl. Did you actually participate in the pageant? That's the thing, or you were the fastest guy. Yeah, maybe, but did you actually participate in the race? I think you have to participate. If God gave you something, share it in accordance with how He determines that it should be shared. But if He gave you something, then probably you were supposed to use it. So what makes us us is how we use what God gave us.